Hello everyone and welcome to our Single Touch Payroll STP Get Ready webinar. This is the second in our STP webinar series presented by Orion. So in today's webinar session, we're going to be inviting some guests to talk to us about what is involved in preparing for STP in your Orion system and across your business. So in terms of our agenda today, we're going to talk a little bit about what Single Touch Payroll is, just to revisit that subject for anybody who hasn't been involved in previous webinars or education sessions. We're then going to move on to looking at what's involved for being STP ready at different points in the compliance transition period. We'll then move into looking at how we prepare for STP with our special guests, delivering STP out of Orion, how we implement STP, and some of the change management techniques that you can use to improve your STP transition. And then we're going to direct everybody to some resources that can be used to help you get started on your journey or to move through your journey as you progress. So joining me today for the webinar will be Joy Richardson. Joy is our Manager of Quality Performance here at Orion, an expert change manager who will talk to us all about what's required during the STP transition journey. We'll also be joined by Chantal Tinios. So Chantal Tinios is a professional services consultant here at Orion and our lead STP consultant who's been very involved with our STP transition team here internally at Orion and with the Australian Taxation Office throughout the process. Welcome, Joy and Chantal. Just to kick us off, I want to talk a little bit about what STP is for those who are maybe new to the game. The Single Touch Payroll is an ATO reporting initiative designed to provide simpler, lower cost options for reporting payroll activity. STP was introduced approximately 3 years ago. It became legislation shortly after that, at which point the ATO and payroll vendors across the country have been working towards producing STP compliant reporting software that customers can use to report directly to the ATO essentially every pay run. The STP initiative streamlines existing PAYG superannuation and taxation reporting, and the ATO ultimately hopes that this will reduce costs and complexity while providing greater visibility of non-compliance so that they can assist and intervene for employers where possible. So key dates about STP. So STP, the transition period started on the 1st of July 2017. It becomes mandatory for all employers with over 20 employees to start STP reporting from the 1st of July 2018. It will become mandatory for all employers with fewer than 20 employees to start reporting also from the 1st of July 2019. So all employers in Australia will be STP reporting by the middle of next year. So just a bit more of a breakdown of what happens when we're reporting STP data to the ATO. So as an employer, you'll pay your employees as per the usual process. You'll generate a payslip for those employees. You'll transfer monies to the bank account. So process is unchanged. What then happens is that data will be assembled into a payload and sent to the ATO. So data that's included in the STP payload that's sent to the ATO includes salary and wages, PAYG withholding, and superannuation information. The ATO then receives that information that matches the STP data that it's received from you as an employer to the right employer and employee account. And then that information is available online. So an employer is able to see their PAYG withholding liabilities online through the portal. They may choose to then pay your PAYG liability as well, but that's not mandatory under STP. You can also choose to not provide end of financial year payment summaries for an employee in the traditional way, which is essentially as either a hard copy or a soft copy document. So you no longer have to do that. As long as you're reporting the year-to-date withholdings that you've made periodically under STP, you'll get to a point in the financial year where you can indicate that that's the end of the year from a financial processing perspective, at which point MyGov will make that information available to an employee. So speaking of what an employee can see online under STP legislation, they can see their year-to-date tax and superannuation information through the MyGov portal. Year-to-date information that is received from their employer will be automatically pre-filled to their tax return for lodgement at MyGov, and an end of financial year summary will also be available at the MyGov. So in terms of transitioning to STP, so that there are changes that you will need to make to your software and probably to your business as an employer to prepare for STP. There are essentially three scenarios that you can basically be a part of when you're transitioning to STP. So in terms of the key dates to remember are there is a date that's before the 1st of July 2018. There's a second option, which is during the first pay run after the 1st of July 2018. And then there's the next key date, which is anything that's after that first pay run after the 1st of July 2018. So these represent the three different ways in which you can transition to STP. So one is essentially before the compliance date, so before 1st of July. The second is at the compliance date, so during my first pay run after the 1st of July 2018. The third is after the compliance date. This is where I knowingly am not going to be ready to be STP compliant within the time frame that the ATO has allowed. So in terms of what happens at each of these key dates, if the intent is for you as an employer to be STP compliant before the compliance date, so before 1st of July 2018, what you'll need to do this month is perform a headcount for the ATO. So information about how you perform a headcount for the ATO is available from our STP resources site. During the May to June period, you'll have to complete your transition to STP compliant software, STP reporting to the ATO, and do a finalization in July of your 2017-18 data. The benefits of being in this first tranche of people who are STP compliant before 1st of July 2018 is, of course, that you'll meet the compliance date. And secondly, potentially you won't have to do a more traditional end of financial year pay run, essentially where you produce the payment summaries and distribute those to your employees. You'll be able to direct them to MyGov. If you're in the second block, so you'll still have to perform a headcount for the ATO in April 2018. You'll have the May to June period to complete your transition to STP compliant software and activities within that time frame as well. Essentially, the primary difference between the first option and the second one we've got here is you would be completing your end of year process in the traditional way, so producing ATO payment summaries and distributing those to your workforce. And you'd start reporting STP compliance data immediately in your first pay run of the new financial year. So after 1st of July 2018, you're in a place where from an ATO perspective, you won't comply with STP legislation. So there are still some things you will need to do to prepare for STP, but you will then be seeking what's known as a deferral from the ATO. So this is a deferral of your STP reporting obligations, at which point the ATO will ask you for more information about why you're seeking a deferral and what steps you'll be making to get to a compliant position within the financial year. So April 2018, you would still be undertaking the headcount for the ATO. During the May to June period is when you would be applying for a deferral from the ATO. So if you are in a position of applying for a deferral, or you think you might not be able to be STP compliant within the target timeframe, one of the first activities you should complete is to review the STP resources we have available at Orion.com and basically use that to try and determine whether you will be ready or not. And then you should contact somebody from Orion. So we would be able to work with you to understand what's involved in the deferral process and assist you to get through that in a timely manner with the ATO. So July 2018, you would complete end of year in the same way as you've done in the past, so producing ATO payment summaries, and then you would complete your transition to STP activities in the new financial year. Okay, so looking at how we prepare for STP, the first step that we've mentioned in basically all three scenarios, so whether you're before the compliance date, on the compliance date, or you're deferring until the point after the compliance date. The one activity that all of these scenarios have in common is that there is a requirement for you to perform a headcount for the ATO. So information about how to prepare or perform a headcount for the ATO is available from the ATO's website. You will, as an employer, receive correspondence from the ATO about how to perform a headcount. We also have information about ATO headcount available at our STP resources portal at Orion.com. Step 2 is preparing your business for STP. So again, this is something that regardless of which scenario you're in, before, during, or after the compliance date, these are activities that you will have to undertake in preparing for STP. So again, at our Orion.com STP site, we provide a checklist about preparing for single touch payroll, which is basically your step-through guide to all of the activities that are involved in preparing your software, your business processes, and your business in general for STP. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Chantal Tinios. So Chantal Tinios is our professional services consultant here at Orion and our lead STP consultant. She's actually going to walk us through the checklist tasks and talk a little bit about some of the activities you can expect to complete in your transition to STP. Welcome, Chantal.
Hi, Rihanna. Thanks. My name's Chantal and I work in professional services at Orion Corporation. And today we will be going through the components required for your STP configuration. If you are an Orion customer, you can commence the configuration changes necessary to prepare your database for STP reporting from version 11.34. Further STP software changes are available in version 11.42, which includes the Orion Gateway service, and additional STP updates will be available in 11.43. Full details for the STP software changes can be found at orion.com from the software updates page. The configuration changes you need to carry out include updating the company details for the new ATO tab, a review and update of deduction codes for superannuation guarantee contributions, or SGC, a review and update to time codes, allowance and deduction codes that are required for ordinary times earnings, or OTE reporting. The ATO tab on the company details screen is a new tab introduced in version 11.34 and will need to be configured with your relevant company and contact details to support the data that will be sent to the ATO for STP reporting. If the ATO tab for company details isn't correctly configured, the information supplied to the ATO may be invalid for your company. A new checkbox field for deduction codes called SGC is available and should be checked on for all deduction codes configured for superannuation guarantee contributions. The new SGC field will be used in Orion to determine the value reportable for STP in relation to superannuation guarantee contributions. An API can be used to update these codes in bulk if required. If the SGC checkbox for deduction codes isn't correctly set, then the value for SGC that your company is reporting to the ATO may be over or understated. Payroll transactions will be analysed each pay to derive the value of ordinary times earnings for STP reporting. Time codes where the category code is either work or leave taking, plus any other time code or allowance transaction code where the counts for super checkbox is checked on, less any deduction codes where the PAYG tax category equals gross and the counts for super checkbox is checked on, will be used for the calculation of ordinary times earnings. Where your time codes, allowance codes or deduction codes are incorrectly set for the calculation of ordinary times earnings, the total value reported to the ATO in your pay event may be incorrect. For more information on STP configuration requirements, please refer to the STP resources page available at orion.com.
Thank you, Chantal, for running us through step 3, how to configure your payroll system for single touch payroll. So once we've completed our configuration tasks, we then start moving into STP user acceptance testing, and some of the system configuration you'll have to do in conjunction with the ATO to prepare yourselves for single touch payroll. So to run through the next steps in your STP preparation journey, I would like to introduce Joy Richardson. Joy is our Quality and Performance Manager, and she's going to talk us through the next steps in how we prepare for STP.
Thank you very much for that, Rihanna. Yes, our next process step is testing, so user acceptance testing, or UAT for short. So the purpose of user acceptance testing is to round out the testing process, ensuring actual software users test the software to make sure it can handle require tasks in real-world scenarios, according to the specifications as outlined by the ATO. So the purpose of UAT should be to confirm the software changes for STP in Orion, the product, work as expected in payroll scenarios. We want to validate all functionality has been delivered, validate our configuration changes, confirm any data-related issues, integrity issues, and fix them up, and then confirm our transition to the ATO works as expected. It's really important in terms of our testing efforts that we establish entry and exit criteria. Now, this can change from organisation to organisation, and what we've done is we've outlined some criteria that we believe is value add in terms of minimum accepted entry and exit criteria. Of course, what you need to understand is that with any testing effort, you may want to do more or little, and that's completely up to you. But the biggest thing to remember is that you need to ensure that you can resource that testing effort accordingly, and also you make sure that you have, obviously at the end of it, got it approved, signed off, and you're ready to move to the next step. When we talk about the next step, we're going to talk about what we need to do from a transmission perspective and how we need to set up this in preparation from the ATO. So it's called Declaration and Authorization. Orion Corporation will issue you with the new SEK, a software enable key, which will include your unique software ID. You'll need to inform the ATO of this number. So to complete this, and this is a one-off notification only, you don't need to do this every single time. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can log on via the Access Manager, or you can notify them via the 1300 number. The information you'll need to provide is a proof of record ownership, so either your TFN, date of birth, address, or recent ATO generated notice, which is up the top right-hand corner of your notice, if I'm not mistaken. Your ABN, Australian Business Number, the name or ABN of your software provider, which is Orion Corporation, and your unique software ID, which will be your SEK. What we're now going to do is we're actually ready to go. So we have basically done all of our steps. So we've done step 1 to step 4, and we're ready, we're willing, we're able. But let's just check. Let's do our quality assurance check one more time. Let's verify that we have confirmed our headcount, we've undertaken our preparation and configuration, we've done our testing, and we've notified the ATO. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand back over to Rhianna, and she's going to take you through the ATO Gateway.
Awesome. So thank you, Joy, for that step-by-step guide to preparing for STP. So what I want to do now is we're going to have a quick look at the Orion ATO Gateway, and we're going to discuss what is involved with sending STP data from your business to the ATO. So STP data is delivered to the ATO electronically. It is in a format that is compliant with the ATO specification. And once the data is delivered to the ATO, they will send back any errors, warnings, etc. with your STP data, so that you'll then be able to troubleshoot those within your own systems. So the Orion ATO Gateway provides a seamless connection to the ATO and two-way data connection that sends your STP data to the ATO via a secure gateway service directly from your Orion core application. So no need to incorporate any third-party applications or format any data specifically for use in another application. So once that data has been assembled in Orion, it's a one-click to send to the ATO, at which point the ATO will return any data issues or corrections back to you within their own ATO processing timeframes, which more information is available from our website about the ATO processing timeframes. That data can be sent back to you so that you can do troubleshooting within your own systems. So the Orion ATO Gateway is available for the exclusive use of Orion customers. It is provided and supported by Orion. Customers can get more information about the Orion ATO Gateway from Orion at our orion.com website, where we've got full technical information and FAQs about the service. Alternatively, you can contact your client advocate, who will provide you with more information. So that's a bit about the ATO Gateway. Next, I want to hand back to Joy. Thanks, Joy. Where we're going to talk a little bit about change management techniques that you can apply during your STP journey to ensure that you get the maximum outcome and that you're ready for STP. Thanks, Joy.
Thank you very much for that, Rhianna. Yeah, change management is very important and predominantly underestimated in a lot of organisations, unfortunately. It's the discipline that guides how we prepare, equip and support individuals to successfully adopt change in order to drive organisational success and outcomes. This is a funky little model that I like. It's very colourful. And essentially, though, it highlights the points. There can be multiple points, but let's just stick to 5. Let's stick to identifying the change. So what is the change? Single touch payroll is the change. Outline the details. So what's the nitty gritty? What does that involve? What processes does that impact? What are the behaviours? What are the risks? What do we need to do in order to mitigate these risks of the change? What's our approach? So how are we going to transition? Who's doing what? Who are the stakeholders? Who needs to be involved? Who needs to approve? Or who needs to get out of the way and just let us work? Then, how do we implement? So what's our action plan? What are our tasks? Who's doing what? What's our comms plan? How do we get people on board? Who's going to be our escalation? What's our governance program around that? And what's our support program around that? Then we're going to monitor. So what we've done on our website, and if you go to the Orion website under the Orion STP resources site, we've provided a number of sample templates, documents, plans, and checklists to support you with the change. We've got a sample communication plan. We've got some sample communications to guide you and your employees through the transition checklist, test plans, and also ATO links to reference material. One thing to highlight to keep in mind with ATO communications is we suggest that you only use reference links to the website. Because it's dynamic and ever-changing, what we suggest is to use the reference links with a date and check back regularly to the ATO website to ensure that your information is always up to date and accurate. One of the other things that we've provided is a process or the process. What this is essentially all of your high-level steps put into a nice little process map to go through. This is your minimum requirement to hit your change successfully for single touch payroll. So again, we have provided all of our steps, and essentially this is just another representation of step 1 to step 4. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand back to Rhianna, and Rhianna's going to just recap in terms of single touch payroll and how Orion is here to help you.
Thanks, Joy. And I'd like to thank Joy for joining us for our STP webinar today. Joy will be back for future webinars and education sessions about STP as we help customers along during the STP journey.
Pleasure.
So just recapping what we've discussed during our webinar today, we have a range of STP resources that are available for Orion customers and other users who need assistance with STP. So for registered Orion.com users, you're able to access our STP resources portal, which is available at Orion.com after the login. Also, we provide a comprehensive list of STP FAQs and an Are You Ready for STP checklist, recordings of all of the webinars, and an STP fact sheet from our Orion.com website, even if you're not a registered Orion.com user. In addition to STP resources that are available from our Orion.com website, we also provide STP specialist services for those who are needing a bit of additional assistance getting STP ready. So we've got you covered with STP specialist services that include consulting, technical services, and change management that can assist you during your STP transition. This is particularly relevant for those who need help transitioning to meet the compliance date. And additionally, if you're somebody who potentially doesn't think they're going to meet the compliance date, as we discussed during our key dates slide, if you don't think you're going to meet the compliance date, also really important to get in touch with us either via our Orion support desk or your client advocate to discuss what options you have available. So I'd just like to again thank everybody for today's webinar. Thank you to Joy and Chantel for all of the great work and advice. And good luck to everybody headed out on the STP transition journey. More information at orion.com/STP if you need any assistance, or please feel free to contact us via our support desk or at your Orion Client Advocate. Thanks.